Okay, while we're waiting for Henry to bring the score sheet for today, do you have any questions? Will had a question about what texts are going to be on the midterm, and they are all of the texts that we've read up through the New Testament will be on the midterm.
So not this that we're talking about.
Not this reading, nor the next one. Those will all be part of the Roman material that, so we're really beginning the Roman material here with the Suetonius and Tacitus, and then we'll have the martyrdoms of Felicitas and Perpetua, and then eventually Augustine and so on. So we're going to make a break with the New Testament material.
Got it. Okay.
So we don't have to do Bible stuff?
You.
Yes, everything from the beginning up through the New Testament.
Do you know how many, are you allowed to tell us how many IDs there are going to be?
Oh yes, let's see. There are, I think I give you a selection of something like 7 or 8, and then you will do 5 of them. I think that's what it is. I'll have to look.
At the whole exam?
Yep.
Okay.
Professor Burrell.
Yes.
How in depth, or I'm guessing like what questions or topics do you want us to cover within our IDs to make sure that we have a complete answer? Is there a guideline to follow?
Oh yes, there'll be instructions, and in fact, what I thought I might do, if you're interested, is I'll put up a test midterm that will be like the quiz. I mean, I'll just put it up. It'll be a link, and you can say practice. It'll be practice midterm, and then you can see exactly what it is, and you can practice.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
I asked.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
That's the same as.
Does anybody know
Other questions? Are there other questions? So on our workshop on Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the exam. We're going to talk about your Swazorii. We're going to be talking about discussions and stuff. We might even look at some tape to work on our discussion performances. It should be a good evening.
Okay.
One more question: is our exam on Wednesday now?
Yes, I've just after, because you all wanted to go to the workshop first.
Yes.
So I will post it Wednesday morning instead of Tuesday morning, and it'll be up for 24 hours.
Awesome.
Alright, well, you have the sheet, so is it cool if we get started?
Do we should get that sheet here pretty soon, right?
I've done
It's
it.
here? Okay, good. All right, let's get going. Isabel.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want everyone to contribute, and I want everyone to be respectful in their contribution. Okay.
what's new?
Is everyone listening? Let's be respectful. All right. We have been studying biographies of Jesus in the Gospels attributed to Matthew and John. The writers of those biographies, who were all supposedly followers of the Jesus movement, taught in slightly different ways to support the claims of Jesus' divine mission. In the readings for today's colloquium, Gaius
Suetonius.
Suetonius Trinquillus brings the biography of Nero, who was, at least politically and economically, the most powerful person in the Roman Empire at the time Paul and Seneca were writing. He was the last of the emperors in the Julio-Claudian line. For our discussion, be prepared to share your perspectives on 1, what was Suetonius' objective, and 2, what were the most important issues for him as a Roman and a biographer who was born about the time when Nero's reign and life came to an end. Does anyone want to comment on either of those?
Isabel, can I offer just one really brief comment of clarification? What this question asks you to do is to essentially, we're talking about biography, right? And the Gospels are biographical discourses about the life of Jesus. So think in terms of what the objectives of those writers were, and what the objectives of Suetonius is. How do they differ? What is the I mean, so it's partly comparative. I want you to think in terms of the Gospels and this letter, or this life of Nero, which is exactly contemporaneous. I mean, the rule of Nero was almost contemporaneous with the work, for example, of Paul. And Suetonius's writing this document is approximately contemporaneous with the drafting of the Gospels, of the biographies of Jesus. So just to provide that additional framework. Thank you, Isabel. Sorry.
Okay, so does anyone want to on what's the Gospels, their purpose, because that's what we were focusing on before this. Anyone want to comment on their purpose?
I would say just summarizing, both like divinity and also humanity of Jesus, and they're trying to solidify the message of like portrayed how spiritual was on earth.
Yeah, well, they were trying to promote his cause.
Yeah.
Not only to shine light on it, but also to purposely spread
Did you pass it? You look like you want to say something.
Oh.
It's okay if you didn't.
We're just talking about
The Gospels.
Oh,
their
yeah.
purpose. All right. So, oh, I'm so sorry. Did you have something you want to say?
All I was gonna add is like you were saying promote Jesus's message, I guess, but like Jesus didn't write anything himself, so really like it's kind of promoting their interpretation of Jesus. That's all I was gonna add.
Right. Interesting, because we talked about how there were so many different forms of Christianity and
Mhm.
how history is written by the winner, and how this is just like whichever version happened
Right.
to come out on top. So it really.
It seems objective, yeah. It's like especially compared to what we read today, but like there's no way of confirming that, I guess.
Yeah.
I would say today's what we read today was subjective reporting.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, before it went into like all of the, all of like the disgusting deeds that he engaged in. Like the beginning was pretty like they were like kind of, I wouldn't say talking it up, but I mean it wasn't like all just like talking badly on there. A lot of it was like it was kind of just an objective account of the actions which he as opposed to like the Gospels was more promoting the cause of Jesus and promoting the cause of Jesus, whereas I thought this was more objective.
Yeah, but I mean there's still a lot of films in it, like a lot.
So, Will, would you argue that the point of his writings were to objectively report on the life of Nero?
Well, not necessarily yeah, kind of. I mean, I can't say whether I think he intentionally was biased one way or the other, but to me, throughout reading it, it seemed pretty objective. I mean, the beginning of it talked about a lot of things that he did, so, I mean, at least.
It's like he reported a lot of true facts about his life, but he was also, his goal was trying to portray him like as a monster, basically. Like, shed a negative light on him.
Are there any passages that like specifically like just because I want to know, are there any passages in here that where we can glean that it's trying to shine a negative light as opposed to just telling of things that he did?
I did find it interesting that he was like, the good stuff came first, and then it ended with all of the bad stuff, because oftentimes we remember the last stuff. Yeah.
But that's also, isn't it because he kind of got worse?
Yeah, he wasn't bad in the beginning.
Yeah.
Just to, like,
Well,
show his-
I mean, they definitely showed print of signs. Like it was, there's a ton of it about how, like, he wanted to be seen. He wanted to be like recognized as this like, like he was always wanting to show himself in public. Like he always wanted to sing for people. Like he was like, well, first he did it for the small group of people, but then he gradually like went into the city and like did it. He just wanted to be publicly.
I think there's a huge parallel we can draw between the author of Nero, Tranquillus, or
Suetonius.
Suetonius, his writing with the Gospel of Matthew's, especially how the Gospel of Matthew begins with the genealogy of Jesus, and it traces down as fulfillment of the Mosaic law through Abraham and then Moses and then being with Jesus. with the mention of David. And now this one of the first things he says, he's talking about is his ancestry. So he gives a genealogy of Nero as well. Through his, I think, great-great-grandfather, perhaps. And he concludes the first paragraph by saying, I think it appropriate to introduce here a number of family members so it can be more clearly seen that although Nero discarded the virtues of his forefathers, he nonetheless perpetuated the vices of each of them as if they were inherited and a part of his birth. And he goes into details about how his grandfather was an awful man, how his father was, like he said, the vilest in every respect, which was in section, it's on page 3 of section, section 5.1. He talks about with Antonia Major, his father, the father of Nero, who was a vile man in every respect. And continues to talk about Nero's
I just kind of have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that Paul, this is about the time that Paul was writing to, and we know who Paul was writing to, and like who his audience was. And it's a little bit easier because there are letters. But who was Suetonius writing this for? Just have a history.
And we know he's a Roman citizen, biographer, so maybe
just for his work.
For his work for the Romans, maybe. Yeah.
That's a very
One of the things we've talked about in the past is that letters don't necessarily mean they're letters to people. Like Seneca's letters, we said, Monroe said that they probably weren't actual letters, and that was just journaling.
Well, Paul is writing letters to the Corinthians.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
Right,
Paul.
He's
we're
talking
going
about
off that assumption.
Okay.
That's it's definitely addressed to.
Okay. And I mean, Seneca's letters are definitely addressed to people too.
Well, it's one person.
Are you talking about the thing we read last night, though?
You know, I was just talking about the letters that we. Never mind.
Okay. Anyone else?
A quick thing also to note is how, like with the example of, because I don't know if y'all read Herodotus the last semester in my class, but when I was informally, we read Herodotus and how we took note on the fact that those quotations of a lot of people, when he said that I heard from this guy that Xerxes said this or that when he saw this going on, and stuff like that. I mean, Suetonius does, I think, some of the ones of the same thing, especially when he talks about Nero's birth, for example. He talks about how Nero was born in 6.1, just as the sun rose, and many quickly conjectured about the quantity of frightening details in his horoscope and the words of his father, Domitius Ramus, as well. When friends offered him congratulations, he said, "Nothing could be born of Agrippina and me that is not vile and a portent of evil for the state." So the accuracy to which we know that either Suetonius did that of himself or that was actually attributed to real people who made that actual saying is, I don't know. The line there is, we don't have any idea of the line itself. So to note on the quotations, I think, and focus on that is a big deal in figuring out what Suetonius is trying to convey about Nero, especially through the genealogy and inclusion with his people.
In the plenary, the professor was talking about how at this time they wrote a lot more to come up with like a general emphasis and a general point and not necessarily be exactly historically correct. And since these were, he was talking about the Bible, but since these are roughly written at the same time, we could probably extend that assumption to this and say that maybe not all of this is exactly historically correct. Maybe when the city was burning down, Nero wasn't actually standing there singing, but that's a point that he's trying to make, that he cared so much more about himself and his self-promotion than he did about his place that he was ruling.
I think, well, he's trying to like alter the perception because of Nero, because at the end, like he's talking about people were bragging that they were Nero, that they're trying to pretend they were him or something. And I don't know, maybe a lot of people were doing that, and he was trying to persuade them that was not a good thing.
So going back to the discussion question, what do you guys think was his objective in writing? Do you think it was to persuade people that Nero was a bad guy, or just to guy existed? Here's some stuff about him.
Well, go ahead.
Well, in 57.2, it says that representatives of the Senate asked that Nero's memory be cherished, and then Tranquillus said that right after, like, he was approached by a man of obscure origin, and like they asked him to write on this. So I guess it's mostly just the document, like, and it also says that he had actual writings for Nero in 52. So just to like expand upon like his actual thoughts and what was going through his head, and just to promote that.
Yeah, and to keep the memory of him.
Yeah, and also a true account, since he actually had written works.
Right. And since we're reading this some years later, obviously.
Yeah.
Hayden?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, I mean, my perception of it, of course, you can perceive it a bunch of different ways, but it was I just think that, like, his title is a historian, which you guys agreed for the most part, and I didn't see a whole lot of bias. Yes, he presented honorable aspects of Nero, but he also kind of discussed what the people did not like about him, and you kind of see that at the very last chapter, 57.1, where it says, his death gave everyone such joy that people ran all about the city wearing freedom caps, but there were those who continued for a long time to decorate his tomb with flowers in the spring and summer. So he's not completely committing to portraying him in a negative light or a positive way.
Right, and you see that in his
Right.
work where he talks
Pretty
about the
objective
good
for
things
the most
he did and the bad things he did.
Yeah, I think history is subjective, definitely, to any degree, because it's coming from a person and not, it's just written out. It's to you, like, the choice of words that we have, and like what we choose, it's the words. For example, in section 7.1, he says, they say that Seneca drew the guy Caesar, I mispronounced that name, and Nero quickly turned the dream into reality, revealing his monstrous character by providing examples of it as quickly as he could. And sure, he gives accounts of some of the good stuff he did, but I mean, he comments, he may have done more evil also than good, which is also what Neo writes about, but he doesn't comment on how good the good stuff he did was. He comments on how bad the evil stuff he did was, and like those in his own adjectives for himself. Maybe just for creative fervor, not, but I think that's big bias.
Oh no.
Okay. Then, 1, 2, 3.
Who's first?
No. I was just gonna say, like, it seems like he's kind of like succeeded in the notion that he made it in section 55. He wanted to look nearer for his fame to be lasting, if his desire was not coherently conceived. And so I think that he succeeded quite well in that 2016. We're still like reading about this. I mean, if you want to think about like the mission, maybe that was it, not necessarily to portray him in a certain light, but to simply portray his fall. You know, like to write about his fall.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna say. I mean, what you were saying is that there's like no possible way any historical or biographical account of anybody can be unbiased or objective,
It's true.
which to a certain degree is true. And I think that whether or not his objective was to paint Nero in a certain light by writing about what he did, I mean, who in here thinks Nero was a good guy? You know, thousands of years later, there was, whether or not it was a clear and intentional objective, there's one there.
So I think the reason that he starts out with the kind of his genealogy and focusing so much on his upbringing is, I think it's a lot of it's not him. Like, I don't think the story is like the purpose of it. Like you said, he like kind of throws in these adjectives and like it's significant to a certain degree, which I believe is true. But I think the entire purpose of him starting out with like his genealogy and his childhood is to kind of provide an explanation of that behavior. I don't think it's necessarily to try to paint it as it's like or to provide an explanation. That makes sense.
Someone saying something? Sorry, I thought I heard someone try. Sorry. Okay. Can we go on to what were the most important issues for him as a Roman and a biographer who was born about the time when Nero's reign and to them, like stuff that he emphasized and focused on in his writings? Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I just raised my hand. I just think it's interesting, like, the way that Nero, everything he did was in excess, like his greed and his murder and, like, or the murder that he did and the corruption, everything is, like, so excessive, which is really a contrast to what was really, like, a popular thought in the time, popular thought in the time, like the philosophy of, like, Epicureanism and Stoicism. Like, Seneca would not approve of anything that Nero did at all. So, I don't know, I think maybe that was his point. And that's why he doesn't like him and why he uses the adjectives is because it's like such excess, I guess.
It's also interesting that Seneca was his teacher, and yet he had so many different ideas and he tried to murder him.
So raised some, from what Suetonius is telling us, he doesn't give us any account of him being abused or pressured by the riches or anything like that. And he elaborates. I mean, sure, he did a lot of evil stuff for like this account, but I think he could have easily extended on half of this with the good stuff they did at the beginning of his reign. Easily. I mean, economically, there's so many explanations that he could just throw in and talk about like where he did, the travels he made, the citizenships he gave people, accounts, personal accounts of him giving citizenship freely to whoever he deemed just wanting it, instead of just saying, he just ended it with saying, but close to the end of his reign, Nero didn't do some like extramarital acts or something. Like, he could have made it a lot less intense than what he did. I mean, the explicit detail that he gives and the accounts of him with his like that little baroness Sporus or whatever his name is, and the accounts of him just blatantly raping people that he has chained with stakes. I mean, there's just the detail of his evilness just completely overbalances, I think, any detail he provides of the good stuff. I think he just lists off a couple
I don't think anyone's disputing that.
Yeah.
But I think also that it's I'm sorry. I think also it's more of a timeline thing because I didn't really realize it at first, but there's a long time between. It says, I don't have the exact reference, but it said like 32 years. He died like 32 years after he killed his mother. And so like that's a long time.
Yeah.
Being bad. Yeah.
Wait, just a second there. What was that, Isabel? Just a point of clarification about time?
He said he died like 32 years after he killed his mother.
Okay, so that's not true. He died. Look at that source again.
Oh, it's 57.1. Nero died in his 32nd year on the anniversary of the day on which he
Oh, okay. When he was 30. Okay, sorry.
He killed 12 when he came out.
Yeah, I was. Okay. When he was 30. Oh, really? That was 32?
He did a lot of killing in his time.
I feel like this might be exaggerated. That it's exaggerated, like an exaggerated. In that case, it would be like to fulfill a purpose, obviously, of like how bad Nero was. Like, does this seem? Am I wrong? This seems ridiculous. Just like the entire account of his evils, like it's so detailed. It's so.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of really crazy Roman emperors out there. We were discussing at the beginning of class. Caligula made his horse a senator, so I mean, Nero's.
You're He's got nice, dude.
So what else is he focusing on in his writing?
So anybody else? I don't know.
Yeah, who hasn't talked today?
Speak. No, I'm just sitting here. I'm not part of your class.
You're on the team though.
It's not a matter of talking, it's a matter of contributing to the conversation here.
I think that's what she
Yeah. How many of you have brothers or sisters who are 17 years old?
Oh, shit.
Oh, well, mine's 16. Does that count?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's close enough. What would happen if you're is it a brother or a sister, Will?
It's a brother.
What would happen if your brother were suddenly the most powerful person on the planet?
I can't say exactly what would happen, but I can't imagine that it would be very good for me. He just got his driver's license though, so I mean, he has that going.
Can you hear?
Hello?
No, he hears it.
He's thinking.
Does anyone want to comment on?
Okay, so I guess the thing is does his age have a lot to do with his ridiculous behavior?
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
to like draw it back to modern day, think about think about Justin Bieber. So he got like really famous, really young. I mean, this happened to a lot of like teen stars, and they got a lot of power and a lot of money, and they just didn't know what to do with themselves, and they started doing crazy things. I mean, they weren't,
Murder.
killing and raping their moms, but I mean, tails.
But then again, there's a difference. There's a lot more responsibility being an emperor than a pop star. So
You're right. I mean, there's different
Of
kinds of
course.
responsibilities.
I mean,
one
Justin
way or
Bieber
the
had a
other.
following.
Well, like, I guess you really didn't have much of a choice, and I think when you're in that situation, I think there's a lot of pressure to prove yourself to people who are much older,
You're right.
much wiser, have much more experience than you, and yeah, the entire Senate, who I'm sure are all thinking that, not I'm sure, because that's a super generalization, but who probably are under the distinct impression that they can do a better job of it themselves, and so I think that's a lot of pressure on someone who is only 17 and who's still very young, and a lot of responsibility to inherit very, very suddenly.
Yeah.
You know.
Additionally, like with the tracing of genealogy, it seems like probably is a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know though, I mean, there was so much responsibility assumed at an early age in Roman culture, and I mean, I can kind of see, yeah, I mean, maybe not everyone was up to it, but when you are the Roman emperor, you do have to rely to a certain extent on your advisors and everything else, but Caligula, you kind of just, well, not Nero, right? Nero kind of, he banked on himself, he went very, very wrong, as we can see. Seneca certainly didn't appreciate it.
I definitely think his age has to do with his actions, but it doesn't excuse his actions.
That's
Difference.
Well, when we were talking about some of the good things that he did, like in 8, it talks about how he was 17 when Claudius died, and like what we were just talking about, and that like in a show of piety, he buried Claudius with an elaborate funeral, and like it says all these good things, and then later on we go to 33.1. And it kind of jumps back and qualifies like everything he did back then. And if you read that part, which I will, like it kind of shows how bad a seed he was even before Claudius died and he took power. Because it says, although he was not the one who planned his death, he nonetheless knew about it and did not pretend otherwise. Without question, he attacked him after he was dead with all manner of insult, action, and words. At one moment, he would charge him with stupidity, and another with cruelty. He would joke that Claudius had stopped lingering. And, like, he just says all these terrible things, and it seems like, I don't know, like, to blame that all on the power that he got and the pressure that he had doesn't really seem fair because, like, that's, I don't know about you guys, but to me, like, that's not my first, like, somebody who gives me power like that, my first instinct wouldn't be to, like, be such a jerk about it afterwards, I guess.
Maybe he's scared.
Really?
Okay, so.
I don't think that.
I'm not going to say these sources are the most credible, but so this is saying that the average life expectancy in ancient Rome was about 35. So he was 17, he was about halfway through his life. The average expected life is in the U.S. right now is like almost 80. So our presidents are, and they're usually about halfway through their life as well. So is it, 17 to us is ridiculous. Is it so far-fetched?
But just
But
because
that
you
might be
live,
true for the average Roman citizen, but think of the Roman aristocracy. They tended to live a little bit longer, and you can see that. He didn't, but there's exceptions to the rule.
Right.
I mean,
But I mean, whether or not your life expectancy.
he didn't exactly live the most healthy lifestyle.
But does anyone?
Well, okay, so he didn't die of natural causes.
Right.
He didn't die of illness. He died by suicide, right?
But, I mean, regardless, the Roman aristocracy did live longer than the average citizen. So you got to take that into account.
Natalie.
Like, I mean,
I follow.
Natalie.
Augustus lived into relative old age.
Well, I think that also Nero, like, it seems to be a consistent theme of, like, almost, I wouldn't say paralyzing insecurity, because it's a very extreme insecurity that causes him to act in very rash manners. I mean, in 32.2 it said, Nero poisoned Britannicus as much as because he envied his voice that happened to be more pleasing than his own. And then, like, in section 55, it says that he killed,
The guy playing Paris or whatever?
yes, he killed the guy playing Paris because he thought that everyone liked him more than they liked Nero. And I'm like, this is obscene. Like, it's a ridiculous amount of insecurity, like, for someone.
Well, at that point, you just ask if he has some type of psychosis.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's true. That's true. I
That's
mean, like,
very possible. I mean, there was lead in all of the water pipes in
yeah,
Rome.
I mean,
there
I'm
was...
just saying that, like, his actions
Are
for
indicative of
whatever the
psychosis.
cause may be, whatever the cause may be, are
Guys,
very, very
can we not, you're fine, but like the outside talking while other people are talking. Like that was a good conversation they were just having and not everyone was listening. So we need to be paying attention, be respectful. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, I totally understand what you mean because it also might be that he had a bunch of people conspiring against him, so maybe it wasn't completely unfounded.
Yeah.
But that, like, insecurity in himself is definitely ridiculous and motivates a lot of his actions.
Yeah, and in section 56 it says that he didn't even have any gods except for one Syrian goddess that he later rejected and defiled her statue by urinating on it. And it says he put all his trust in the statuette of a girl that had been given to him by an unidentified commoner to protect him against conspiracies. And the reason that he trusted it is because 3 days after a few days after he got it, a plot against his life was discovered. So then all of a sudden, this was his god. It was this random statue of a girl that he sacrificed to 3 times a day. Because after he got it, at some point, they happened to discover a plot against him. And so, all of a sudden, he put all his faith in it. And it just seems like all of his actions, it seems like there's no middle ground. It seems like they're all very extreme in whatever way that they're going. Like, they could be good or they could be really bad, but there's no middle ground. He's not an average with anything.
Who else in the class thinks that all of his actions very clearly point towards mental illness of some kind?
I don't think we can.
I don't know.
I just kind of want to draw back to the objective of Suetonius. My question is, so this Suetonius guy, how did he exactly know the motives behind every single one of these terrible things that Nero did? Yeah, I highly doubt that Nero said, hey everyone, I think the guy who's playing Paris is better liked than me, I'm going to kill him. He probably just killed him, and then maybe it was assumed.
So you're asking how much of this is speculation?
Yeah, speculation. That's the word I was looking for.
Well, I agree with Amelia. When I was thinking of this, I kind of thought of modern day media, how they report on the extreme things, either really good or really horrific. And I think that he's a writer. He's trying to get people to read it. So you're not going to write about something that's mundane. You're going to write about something that's crazy. And he did a very good job of that.
I mean, it could be sensationalized, as often as they wanted to.
Let me, if I may, Isabel, can I make a few comments here because we're almost out of time. I want to come back to this. I mean, Suetonius had to make decisions about the things that he wrote about, and he wrote about a number of very sort of indecent things and terrible things about the life of Nero. He's writing, I mean, and I do think that you should have a look, even just briefly, at the life of Suetonius, but he was an equestrian. He rose to one of the highest offices that an equestrian could rise to during his life, that of the imperial secretariat. He essentially wrote the correspondence for Hadrian, the emperor. This is, I think that his, to a certain extent, he writes in this that Nero was an incredibly popular emperor. People were still decorating. He did a lot of things in terms of his gifts and his largesse to the people, the games and the various entertainments that he founded. He didn't have to expand the empire. He didn't have to win his position through political savvy or military excellence. It was handed to him, and he could do whatever he wanted with this huge empire and with all of the wealth that he had. He created this Aurea Domus, of which there are still parts left. This incredible house that he created was, so it begs the question, why did Suetonius choose these things to write about? And you can be thinking about that. He's definitely, this is a biography in which one can take certain lessons, right? What does it mean to have unlimited power and no checks on one's life? Is that the kind of system that we want to live in? What should a person do under these circumstances? What represents the appropriate range of sexuality? What do we expect from our leaders? I mean, I think that this is a very it's almost exactly the opposite from what you've read in terms of the life of Jesus, as they were trying to promote that. But I think that in every case, as India pointed out, the people who wrote the lives of Jesus had an agenda too, and they were out there to show the divinity of Jesus and to promote this Pauline vision of this movement. And remember, the central point of this movement is that the world was coming to an end. Well, here we have a writer that's writing, right around 100 or maybe 110 BC or CE, writing about an emperor that was emperor from 54 to 68 CE. And about the excesses of that. And I also think that he's writing it in a way that emphasizes the virtues of the current emperor, Hadrian. In particular, the contrast between what Hadrian did as he made a tour of the Greek East as opposed to what Nero did. I actually thought the analogy with Justin Bieber is quite clever. That you've got someone who really cultivates a cult of celebrity. He has all the means to do it. And I also think that the comments, I think Natalie made the comments about his insecurity. There are repeated references in this to the notion that he was unsure of himself in many respects, and the adulation of the people, I think, contributed to that, to the desire to create this image of the emperor. All right. Well, we're out of time. We're going to look at, you also with regard to the objectivity, you read some selections from Tacitus as well.